Hello, and welcome to this video series, Dynamics 365 Business Central for GP users. We'll explore what a GP user can expect to find if they're moving to Business Central. In this video, we'll compare GP's account format to the account format in Business Central. My name is John Hoyt, Solutions Architect for Technology Management Concepts. Let's get started. As the old saying goes, all roads lead to Rome, and it was true. Rome was the center of the world, and your path to success would lead you to Rome. Today, the path that everyone wants to follow is to the cloud, and that road leads to Business Central and the Microsoft Cloud. Side note, Dynamics GP is not going away, full stop. Check the link for more details. In this video, we'll look at how GP's account format compares to Business Central's. Off we go. Now, in the GP system, of course, when I talk about my account structure, I can look at the account card. We'll pull up one of those real quickly. And I'll pull up my first account. And you can see in my sample company, my account format is comprised of 3 segments. 3 characters, 4 characters, and 2 characters. In this case, the second segment is my natural account, or my main account number. And these will tie to the major divisions or groupings inside my financial statements. Segment 1 and Segment 3 are subsegments. These allow me to have greater detail in my transactions, and I might use department codes for segment number 1 and maybe regions or territories or something like that in my segment number 3. Now, of course, in the GP world, to use those different values and have all the possible combinations, I have to create all of those combinations in advance. In the Business Central world, when we build out our chart of accounts, we do things a little bit differently. First, when I define the accounts themselves, I'll define my posting accounts, and they'll hold balances, and I can drill back and see the details of the journal entries that have been posted and impact those balances. But you'll notice that my account number is just a single segment long. There is no provision here for additional segments, and I'll show you how we're going to create those additional details in just a moment. But I also want to point out that with the chart of accounts in Business Central, I'm also creating the structure of my financial statements. So account 10,000 is simply a heading row, and it begins my assets. Account 10,001 is a begin total row, and account 10,990 is my end total row. Any accounts added within that range defined for my end total row will automatically be included in my total assets. A little bit different than we do things in GP, just kind of unique to the Business Central system. Now, to get to those additional details, to become more specific, I want to talk about dimensions. Dimensions in the Business Central world allow us to add that additional level of detail, to be more specific about how a transaction should be processed or how a transaction should be reported. And an example of that might be something like internal structure. I can define a dimension, as I can define any of the dimensions in Business Central. In this one, I'm going to look at my internal departments. I define the dimension, and then I create a list of values that represent the different departments inside my organization. I can do the same thing with regions and territories. I can define customer groups. I can build internal projects. And then as I'm processing transactions anywhere inside the Business Central, I may be prompted to enter in those dimension level values so I can be more specific. I'm doing an AP transaction entry, for example, and the invoice needs to be associated with a specific department that incurred that expense. When I create my dimensions in the Business Central system, I can also create relationships between them. I can have different project types, internal projects, capital projects, development projects, and then project numbers within each one of those. And again, as I'm coding my transaction, I'll need to specify what project type, what project number. All those values that I'm creating become part of the overall database and are associated with my transactions. But because dimensions are not actually part of the chart of accounts itself, there's a couple unique things that allows me to do. One of those is the ability to add or correct dimension values to posted transactions. Think about that for a second in the GP world. If you coded an AP transaction in GP and you hit the wrong general ledger account, you have two options to correct it. You can either enter an adjusting journal entry and an explanation for why you're making the adjustment, a reclass from one department to another, or I need to go back to the underlying source transaction in the GP system and void and recreate that transaction and anything associated with it so that it does impact the appropriate GL account down to the segment values. In Business Central, because dimensions function with but are not part of the chart, we open up the ability to add or modify those dimension values on posted transactions. So the process of correcting an issue within the Business Central system relative to the dimension values themselves, much simpler, much smoother. And then finally, because I now have this additional level of detail, that becomes available to me when I'm doing any of my reporting or analytic tasks. If I just do something as basic as open up a financial statement, I want to run my income statement, within that I'm going to include the ability to add in filter values based upon those dimensions that we've created. So I could run an income statement for a specific location or a region or a territory, or if I've divided my customers into different customer groups, etc. All of that is because we add in those dimension values and then layer on top of it that ability, as I was saying, to create relationships, project type to project number. Dimensions can be mandatory, dimensions can be optional, there can be some if-then logic built into them, etc. So to recap, the segment values that I have inside the Business Central system are really represented by the dimensions. They are rigid as opposed to flexible. They allow me to add in sorting and filtering capabilities. I can add in correction values after the fact. And then finally, I have that report and filter capability. I'm adding in more data. That means I'm going to have the ability to report against all of that data. So in this video, we've seen how the accounts and dimensions in Business Central compare to the account segment format used in the GP system. Look for the other videos in this series. We're going to do videos around smart lists, around budgets, and ledgers and journal entries. And please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or would like to make a suggestion on what we should cover in the next video, please comment down below. I'll do my best to answer your comments, and if you need any immediate technical support, I invite you to visit our website, www.abouttmc.com. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and please follow our social media accounts.